Welcome to LatinCast. This is the first time that we are actually doing an episode in English, so I'm super excited to be part of this cast, to be part of this episode. And if you're following us, it doesn't matter if you're Brazilian, if you're Hispanic, anywhere in the world, LatinCast is your community for you to be part of, for you to get information, for you to get interviews, for you to get empowerment of amazing content that we're going to bring it for you straight to your screen. But what I need to ask you for a favor. I need you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, The LatinCast on YouTube, at LatinCast on Instagram. And again, we are just starting. This is our 6th episode, and we are thrilled with our guests today. First of all, I want to welcome my friend Robinson, who is part of the casting crew. And also, we have an exciting guest today, and he's sitting right here in the middle of us.
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm in the house.
Yeah, man.
But I'm next to Robinson, though,
Tonight,
so
I'm
good.
so excited to learn a lot from this guy, you know.
We're going to do something together, man.
Morris, we've been a friend, and thank you so much. First of all, let me start by doing this, if you allow me to. First of all, on behalf of LatinCast, on behalf of the team, we want to thank you.
Come on, man.
Oh, yeah.
No
we
doubt,
want to thank you because
so
you're
much,
an
bro.
inspiration.
Yeah.
You are actually the first sponsor, if you will.
Come
of
on now, that's
LatinCast.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I
Hey,
love
the
it.
official sponsor.
The official sponsor.
The first one, the first one.
That's right. Come
If
on
you don't
now.
know, we're actually recording live right now at Morris Studio.
Come on,
He's
man.
been generous enough that he opened up the doors, and he actually believes so much in the podcast that he said, we want to host you. We
Hold on,
want
time out. I got a comedic joke already. I do not believe in this podcast. It might be horrible. Y'all might not even be listening.
on.
I don't believe
I love
in this
it. I love
podcast because y'all haven't given me a reason to believe in it yet. But these two guys, I believe in God. And I believe that when God gives a man and a woman a vision and they walk towards it, that is what I believe in. So you could have came to me and said, Morris, can I use your studio to bake some cookies? I would have said, yep. You said, can I bake some bread? Yep. Can I use your studio to write a book? I would have said, yep. And I'd have been like, I ain't eating that bread, though. I ain't eating those cookies because I don't know if he can make cookies.
That's
you
right.
know? But when you see
get
a
it.
man or woman who's got God in them and they have a vision, that is what I believe in. Now, for this podcast, I don't know. Y'all listening out there, y'all watching this right now, you're going to be the reason we believe in this podcast. We're going to keep showing up. I
Come
know
on.
y'all going to
You're
keep
right.
showing up.
Come
But
on.
the question is, the audience, are y'all going to keep showing up because of what God is doing through the studio, through this podcast? Y'all are the ones who are going to determine the success of it here.
That's right. This is just a little bit. We are starting at 100 miles an hour.
Come on, let's go. We're in it.
We even started yet.
We haven't really yet. We're just getting warmed up. So I'm excited for this podcast. I think there will be tons of information. So just to give you a little background, we are talking about communication. Morris is a writer, speaker, a preacher, a dad, a father, a husband, an amazing friend. So there will be a lot of content. But most important, we want to focus really and empower you with some tools on how to be a better communicator. So we're going to start. And Robinson, please jump in anytime that you feel like you have a good question. So please feel free. I'm just going to kick us off by asking you a question. Who is Morris Morrison? Where does he come from? The name is amazing. It sounds amazing. So tell us a little bit, who is Morris? So where did you get your style? Your
My
dress style. Yeah, your
Man,
dress style.
I tell you what, first of all, whatever you call this style, just know this. When you're orphaned in New York City, then lose the second set of parents in West Virginia, I have that story where, you know how some people, they were poor, and then later in life they say, we were poor, but we didn't know we were poor because everybody was poor,
Yeah.
Well, my story isn't like that. We were poor and I knew I was poor, right? Shoot, forget that. But I also knew, I just always felt like God was walking with me. And there was times when I would walk out of the house with, my one pair of shoes that had holes in them, or I didn't have a lot of clothes. I had a grandmother who I called grandma, who adopted me, who raised me. Shout out to Gwendolyn Sanders and the entire Sanders Moore family. She did everything she could, but her husband was a coal miner. And by the time she started raising me, he passed away when I was around 4. So the small check that she got, like she didn't have much. Trust me, we were poor. But the thing was, I knew that there was a difference in being poor and acting poor. And from the time I was young, man, that lady, she took me to church. And from the time I was 3 or 4, I believed everything that those preachers said. And I knew there was one thing. I knew that how I represented myself was how I represented Christ. And so I might have only had 1 or 2 shirts, but I kept them clean. And I learned how to iron clothes when I was in 2nd grade.
That's
remember
good, man.
My father figure, Chuck, who was my adoptive dad, who's raised me since I was a kid. Shout out to Pops. He showed me how to work an iron when I was in the 2nd grade. And he was like, why do you want to know this? And I said, man, because I can't wear wrinkled clothes. Whoa. And I was in the 2nd grade. And that's it. Now, I burned a lot of clothes because I didn't know what I was doing. But you say I have style. Thank you. I think that comes from, man, I feel like there's a lot of things that we do that are a distraction to the people that we are called to save and inspire and bring to Christ. So let's say you have a patch over your eye because you were in a car wreck. That's okay. But you need to know that every person you meet is thinking, he's got a patch on his eye. And they're wondering, how do you get a patch on his eye? So what you should do is say, hey, Marcia, nice to meet you. I know you see the patch in the eye. That's because I fought a tiger in a village one day and I saved a bunch of kittens and a bunch of children. I killed the tiger with my bare hands, but I lost the eye. Actually, that's not true. I lost it on a downhill skiing accident, but I just want you to know I see you looking at it. Well, guess what? Now Marcia can get on with the interaction because now she's not wondering why he's got a patch on his eye.
So you're saying just go ahead and recognize your inability or your disability.
Or ability. And what I'm saying is we're already in communication right now. We're going to talk a lot about communication today. I'm a top-ranked communicator in the world. And sometimes communication is the simple things that we overlook, right? So going back to what you said I had style. Thank you. I think I intuitively learned at an early age that I didn't want to be a distraction when I could have been a blessing for someone. So controlling how you look, how you carry yourself, if you say please, if you say thank you, if you have a smile on your face, if you're angry all the time, all of those things can either draw people to you and then draw them to Christ, or if you got things that are a distraction about you, you can repel people and make people not want to know the Jesus that you love.
Come on.
And I want to get as many of those things out of the way. I'm a sinner, so that means through emotional intelligence and self-awareness and through great pastors in my life and coaches in my life, I get feedback about the things today that are still a part of my brand that I need to work on, because even now I don't want to be a distraction. I want to bring people to Christ so they can get to know that dude that we know, Jesus, and I don't want to do anything to get in the way of that.
Well, that was a long answer for a couple of questions.
It was. Yes. That's how we started, though.
Okay, so
now we're taking off. We're officially started, though.
We are officially started.
There we go. There we go. Now, what you got, Mr. Rob?
I don't know if it's the right question right now, but when I watch you on some videos, how do you build the confidence to speak, especially on a huge stage? How do you create that?
That's a great question.
Because it's hard for me, to be honest.
Yeah. It's hard for you.
Yes, it is.
But it's not hard for G. G Money, as I call him, by the way. I call Glazy G Money. Just so you know, that's G Money.
Just name it.
I love the name G Money. I love the name G Money.
Just so y'all know, he's money. It's not hard for him and it's not hard for me. You know why? Because the day we were born, God touched us on our shoulder and he gave us a spiritual gift as communicators. So for people out there who are not natural communicators like you, who think, oh my God, I can't speak in front of 1,000 people, or what would I do? That might be true, but there's a lot of things that you are a master at that I would struggle at.
Absolutely.
So just know
Good
that
point.
Jeremiah 1:5, God knew us before he put us in our mother's womb. So with that, he gave us talents, anointings, and ability, and it's up to us to be obedient and bring that out. Now, you ask a specific question about confidence. G-Money, everybody wants to, when I do Q&As with large audiences, if you're watching me on video right now and you're watching us, or if you're listening, look at the camera and listen real close right now. Everybody wants to know about confidence. But what you should really be wondering about it first is obedience. Because obedience uncovers confidence. Here's the story. Let's go 1 Samuel 17th chapter, verse 25 and 26. Now, this is before David kills Goliath. This is after Samuel is no longer the king of Israel, because Israel said they wanted a king, so they brought in Saul. And Samuel told Saul, all you have to do, Saul, is be obedient to Christ and you'll reign forever. He didn't. He asked Saul to kill all the people and the babies and the kids and the livestock and everything else. And Saul plundered the whole entire village, but he kept the good livestock. He kept the jewelry. He kept everything. Saul wasn't obedient. He wasn't obedient. And now we're at the point in Saul's story where Samuel said, he's going to send someone greater than you to replace you. Now watch this. When Samuel went door to door with the king's men to find the next king, and they knocked on Jesse's door, Jesse brought his 7 fantastic sons before David.
That's right.
And then he said, that's it. Sorry. And they're getting ready to walk away. And Samuel says, are you sure we've seen all your sons? You know why I love that scene? Because David's own father, Jesse, overlooked
That's right.
him.
He discounted him.
He discounted him.
Yeah.
He said, I got the youngest. He's in the back. He's just a shepherd. There's nothing remarkable about him. Samuel's response, bring him at once. I will not sit until he's brought here. They walked him in the door, and the Holy Spirit told Samuel, anoint him with oil right now. Okay.
This is the man.
Whoa. That sounds great, doesn't it? That sounds great. Remember, I'm answering your question about confidence. Mm-hmm. Watch this. A lot of people don't realize David gets anointed with oil. He's going to be the next king. And then Samuel's people walked out the door. You know what David went back to doing? Shepherd. You know how long? For a long time.
That's right.
And so for the people out there listening to this right now who you feel like, well, what's my gift? Does God see me? I want you to know, not only does God see you, but God is working on your behalf right now. But what God wants to know is, are you obedient? And people are thinking, well, Morris, what does obedience have to do with confidence? Watch this. Samuel anointed David as the next king. Then David goes back to being a shepherd. Why? Because his father said, go tend to the sheep. David was being obedient to what his father and his household told him to do. Shepherd. Oh. David could have easily said, nah, G, I'm about to have 1 million followers on Instagram. I'm about to be the next king. I ain't shoveling sheep poop no more. You got the wrong guy. He didn't do that. He did what his father said. And then it was only after that Saul's team said, oh, Saul, you look pretty sad. We should get someone who can play some music for you. I've heard about this boy in Bethlehem, Jesse's son named David. This is the second time he came up. Saul's men didn't even realize this is the same David that they have already anointed as the next king, because Samuel was the one who anointed him. So David comes in, he's playing the harp every now and then, but he didn't stay with Saul. He went back home again to shoveling sheep.
Yeah.
Here's the third act of obedience. First act was that he was a shepherd. He did what his father told him to do. Even though Jesse overlooked him, he still listened to his father. The second act of obedience was real simple. Holy Spirit told him, you're going to learn how to play the lyre, which we call the harp. You're going to learn how to play it, and you're going to play it so well that the king's people are going to talk about you. And the third act of obedience that David did that unleashed his leadership was when the war started and when Goliath was at the battle lines for 40 days and the rest of the Philistines threatening the Israelites, Goliath got up and he threatened them every day. Which one of you are going to have the courage to come and fight me? The only reason David was at that battle is because his father Jesse said, hey, your 3 older brothers are fighting in that battle. I need you to go check on them.
Yeah.
Take some wine, take some cheese, give it to the commanders.
That's right.
And that's where 1 Samuel chapter 17, verses 25 and 26 comes in. David walks up on his battle and he sees Goliath over there. And then, first of all, one of the guys spoke up and said, yeah, David, this guy's been shouting at us for the past 3 days, disrespecting God. But Saul said that he promised to make a man really wealthy if they kill him. He promised to give him his daughter, and he promised to delete all of his taxes. And David's like,
what?
What? I'm in. Not only am I in, but the only reason David was upset is because he heard Goliath talking bad about God.
That's right. That's right.
So everybody wants confidence. Here's what I want to ask your audience. If you claim to know Jesus and you love God, what is there that's out there in the world today that you would confidently and boldly stand up and fight against? Because whatever that is, if you will be obedient to that thing that God's calling you to do, your obedience and just one step at a time will unlock mountains of confidence that you never thought you had. But you won't be confident in you. You can't have confidence in you.
Hey, Morris, but I love the answer.
Yeah.
And I back everything you're saying. But here's a question though.
Yeah.
What if you're not Christian?
It's a great question.
What if you're not Christian and you're listening right now? You're like, hey, I like this LatinCast thing. I moved to this country and I'm here. I need to build confidence to get my business going, to get my family going, set up. And I don't know anything about God. I don't even know what to obey God means. How can I build confidence without God? Or is it possible to have confidence away from God?
If you're listening to this right now and you don't believe in God like the 3 of us do, I want you to know for this season that you're in right now, that's okay today. But I'm letting you know, if you keep listening to this LatinCast, this whole you not believing in God, you're going to hear such compelling stories of testimonies. My testimony, G's, Rob's. When you start to hear these testimonies of what God does for people and the confidence that comes from it, you'll realize our confidence is not in us. Our confidence is in our Creator. And our Creator, God, said, my sheep hear my voice. And here's what I want the people listening to if they don't know God. There's a lot of people out there listening to this already who have hopes and dreams. By the way, I know atheists who have hopes and dreams.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I know kids who've never been in church who have hopes and dreams. I know athletes that don't believe in God who still have hopes and dreams. Why? God created us to be an instrument to use us. So if you're listening to this right now and you want more confidence, it's a simple step. Ready? Do something. Do something. Don't wait for the bank to approve your loan in a business just because you have a business plan and you wrote out your business plan. Banks don't give money to business plans. Banks give money to people who have a compelling vision.
That's right. That's right.
That they can't say no to.
Yeah.
So you have to be confident about what you are doing. But my legacy of obedience equals confidence still exists. And it's true even for the people listening right now. If you don't believe in God, you still have to be obedient and take action on your ideas to see them work. So my answer applies to Christians and non-Christians. Obedience unlocks confidence every single time. You have to do something with what you've been blessed with.
So you were saying that, and I'm thinking about back to David's story. Confidence, in a way, it builds its momentum based on small conquers, small victories. You get a victory under your belt, and then you're ready for the next one, and you conquer that second victory, and you keep stepping up into what God has called you. That's, to your point, what David did, by defeating a lion, by defeating a bear. All of a sudden, he was ready. His confidence in his obedience kind of brought him exactly to the point that he needed to be to face.
The point is the right path.
Yeah,
right.
The right path.
Oh, hold on. I know a lot of people who are sinners out there choosing the wrong path, and they still have to have confidence to even choose the wrong path. That's just a fact. To do something and to be bold. Listen, I don't want you to choose the wrong path. That's not what I'm endorsing here. But what I am saying, I don't care where you're at right now in this season of your life. You may want a new job. You may want a promotion. You may want to live into a different state or territory. You may have a person that you're in love with, and she is beautiful, and you think, there's no way she's going to say yes to me. Guess what? You still have to be obedient and take action and take a chance and ask her on a date. She might tell you no 100 times, but on that 101st time, you might happen to catch her on a Tuesday after she just broke up with this jerk that she's been dating, and you've been persistent and you've been faithful and you never gave up. And all of a sudden she ditches the wrong guy and she tells you, okay, I'll let you take me out to coffee. And it may take 100 times, but you still got to be obedient and still have faith and ask her out. See, everybody listening to this, even rich people who are listening to this, rich people have bigger visions than poor people do. You know why? Because a lot of rich people that I meet, they have been poor once and they've made small steps and they see, oh my God, being bold works.
Yeah.
My ideas work. So the bigger they get, it's not about money, but the richer they get, the bigger they dream, right? So what I want to tell someone who's poor, who's out there listening, because I was raised poor, I do not dream any different today than I did when I was a 6-year-old. You want to know why?
You mean about the mindset?
No, about everything. And my difference was this. I went to church when I was a kid, and Jesus has walked with me, and I felt like he talked with me. And when I had tough decisions, even though I didn't have a mom and dad, I felt like I had a Father in heaven who is the King of Kings. So I've actually lived my life like a spoiled, rich trust fund kid, because I've always believed whatever I ask God for is mine.
That's an amazing mindset.
I've been that way. God just, he wired me that way.
But you learned that from where?
No, I didn't learn it. God created me that way. If you ask people who've known me since I was a little boy, they'll tell you I am no different than I was in the 4th grade.
Really? So, well, with that tagline. With that tagline.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, you are following us. You're listening within, this few minutes that we're talking about, and you've seen how powerful Morrison delivers his answers and questions and his comments. So, communication is what we're trying to focus. So, and let me ask you this. Within that, how did you become a speaker? So guide us from the moment that you figure it out.
Yeah,
A lot of stuff happened to you, as you shared a little bit, and you're okay to go into that if you want to.
No, I got the answer. I got it.
How did that kind of morph into who you become today and this calling and career that you
How
pursue?
I uncovered my calling, my purpose in my career, the answer that I'm about to give them is the same answer to how you meet, if you want to meet your husband or your wife, if you want to meet the right person, or if you want to uncover your dream, the answer is the same. I'll give you the answer at first. I'll tell you the story, then I'll remind you of the answer. The answer is that you have to let go of a lot of things that you're carrying in your hands in order for your hands to be open so the right things can be put in your hand. Everything that I've ever done in my life that's taken my life to the next level started with something that I was challenged to let go of, okay? The first time, I was a junior in high school. My basketball team won the state championship. I didn't play much. I didn't play at all that year because we had super seniors above us. We went to a really talented school. Shout out to David Miles, rest in peace. Shout out to Jonathan Reed, Eric Wilson, Corey Bridges, Rashad Kent, Ryan Rowland. What's up, y'all? We had a great team ahead of us, but in my school, you didn't really play till your senior year because you had people ahead of you. So watch this. I was a basketball player. That was my identity. Like, I love ball more than anything. I had God in my life. I had good grades. But when I came back my senior year, you're thinking, yeah, this is your time, Morris.
Yeah.
This is your year. And I was excited to play with my other senior players, Brian Garcia, Andy Johnson. We had Rashad Kent underneath of us. We had some great people. It was exciting. 2 weeks before basketball, the Holy Spirit whispered to me, said, you're not going to play basketball this year.
What?
Really?
And I said, God, I know that wasn't you because I'm a basketball player. That was my identity. And for me, it was all I had. See, for some poor people, like if you find success in school, academics, or sports, that's your thing. And you need to ride that thing. And I wasn't a great basketball player, but I had a mindset to be great. I wasn't very talented, but my mindset was above average, right? I was always a leader in what I did, right? I worked hard, even though my talent was never really great. And in most things, even as a communicator. My senior year, I trust the Holy Spirit. I told my coach, my friends, I'm not playing this year. And my coach said, but I thought you said you wanted to play college basketball. He said, you'll never play college basketball if you don't play your senior year in high school. Ooh. And he said, why are you not playing? And I said, I don't know why. I knew he wasn't spiritual. Yeah. He didn't have God. So if I said, yo, God told me not to play, he was going to look at me like I was crazy. But here's the thing. I lost my parents to New York City early. My mother was a prostitute. My father was her pimp on the streets. They got me out of New York City when they got in trouble with the Italian mafia, and they found somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who knew a woman named Gwendolyn in West Virginia. And this lady made a habit of taking in kids who didn't have parents. And so she told my parents that she would watch over me for a few weeks until things calmed down. That was the plan. Well, shortly after that, they found my mother's dead body in New York City in a hotel room. She was 23 years old. My father died of AIDS after that, as many people did who were involved with prostitution, right? And so Gwendolyn, this lady in West Virginia, she adopts me. She raised me. I call her grandma. She had 10 kids and 1 million grandkids. Large family. Big black family, just amazing. They look like me. They're loud. They're energetic. I mean, they are funny. They're crazy. When they start drinking, they get crazy. We see crazy, right? I saw it all. But these were my people, right? And one of her sons, Chuck, Gwendolyn's son, Chuck, was like a dad to me since I was young. As a matter of fact, in the 5th grade, Gwendolyn had to have her leg amputated. And so for those of y'all listening, she was in a wheelchair from the time I was a kid because she had to have her leg cut off. She was overweight. She was a diabetic. We had a lot of diabetics in our family, and several people had their legs amputated. And so for those 2 years when she went through rehab, her son Chuck, instead of letting me get thrown into orphanage or foster care, he decided to take care of me, him and his girlfriend Sue, and she had a son named Josh. They took care of me. And why am I telling you that? Because when Gwendolyn came home when I was in the 2nd grade, she continued to raise me. Chuck was my dad. He wasn't around very much. And then in high school, he got falsely accused of shooting a man in the hand. A gunshot wound to the hand, he was accused. He did not do it. but he was accused of a crime, and he was given 96 years in prison.
Really?
Oh,
And when they took him, I was 16 years old, and a few weeks later, it crushed his mother, Gwendolyn, and she died. It broke her heart. So I was on my own once again. So why is that important? Because that was my sophomore year. The very next year, when we won the state championship, I was thinking, basketball is all I have. My dad is now in prison. My grandmother's gone. I'm going house to house, living with different people. So my senior year, when it was time
How
to play
old were
basketball,
you?
I was
Give or
16 at that.
16.
15, going on
Whoa.
16. But my senior year, when I decided not to play basketball, you have to understand why that was a big deal. I had nobody. All I had was sports. It was my everything. So when the Holy Spirit said, you are not playing basketball, if you're listening and you're wondering why God doesn't speak to you, or if you're wondering why you don't know what to do in your life, God already told you what to do. He's waiting for you to be obedient. I did not play my senior year, and you know what happened? I was invited. My driver's ed teacher, he kept me after class one day, Joe Cavalier. Shout out to Joe Cavalier, Big Joe. He said, hey, I need to talk to you after class. I said, what? He said, hey, kid, I'm supposed to choose one student in this entire school to send to this student leadership conference to represent our school. It's going to be hundreds, almost 1,000 other kids there. He said, for some reason, I feel like God is telling me to choose you.
Wow.
I said,
insane.
what? I said, what? I don't want to go to some stupid. I wasn't going. I said, I'm not going to a leadership conference. I got better things to do. He was like, no, you're going. I was like, I can't go. I have basketball practice to go to anyway. I told a lie. He was like, no, you don't. I already talked to your coach. There is no basketball. He said, you're going. He forced me to go to this student leadership conference. And when I got there, I did not want to go at first. But as soon as I walked through the door, I looked and I noticed there was a bunch of hot girls there. And I was like, whoa, I like leadership.
This is my place.
I like leadership, right? But it was at that conference, out of 100 students, hundreds of students, I was selected to speak on stage for 3 days.
And how was that for the first time? Like,
as the main host and the main MC. And the very first day I went on stage, I was throwing up. I was sick. I was nervous. By the second day, I was throwing up a little bit less, but I was sick and I was nervous. But by the end of the third day, they could not take the microphone out of my hand. And everyone came up to me and they said, hey,
so fast.
they said, you have a gift. And you know what? God was trying to get me to that leadership conference the whole time. And when I left that conference at the end of that year, before I left high school, I knew that I was called to be a professional speaker and a writer. I knew that I would travel around the world. And at 17, when God gave me that vision, the rest of my life, I put that vision in place. And that's exactly what's happened with my life. But I'm going to tell you something.
Wow. That's an
I'm going
amazing
to end this
story.
story with the principle.
Yeah,
Ready?
That's an amazing
I told you.
story.
Everything great in your life happens with you opening up your hands and letting go of the things you're not supposed to hold on to. God challenged me to let go of basketball because he was trying to place into my hands a greater vision and purpose for my life. And he knew that I needed to be focused to receive it. Okay? If you're listening to this, what is God asking you to let go of in your life right now so that he can give you a bigger vision for your life?
I'm always going to approach this from a perspective of immigrant coming to live in the States. I'm looking at immigrants. I'm looking at Brazilians. I'm looking at Hispanics. I'm looking at any other immigrant that choose to live in the States, and they're here. They lack confidence. They don't speak the language well. They're struggling because they're moving their family, and they're saying they're holding on to everything they find valuable. Like what you're saying, hey, this is my identity. This is all I have. This is who I've become in order to get here. And your message is coming like a hammer saying, hey, if you open your hands and allow God to kind of really do his thing, you will be amazed with what he has in store for you.
That's right. And for the immigrants who are here, they've already started the process. They've already opened their hands to let go. They let go of their home country. What could be more courageous to do than to leave the place that you're comfortable with to come to a foreign land? I believe in that situation, 90% of the hardest work is already done. You've already left your comfortable home. And now that you're here, listen, if you're an immigrant and you're in this country, listen to me right now. You should be ashamed of yourself if you are not confident. You've already done the hardest work. Now that you're here, you are in America. This is a place where if you have a relationship with God, if you learn how to love people, and if you are somewhat motivated and you're not lazy and you're disciplined, you can achieve almost any dream that you have. Now, I say almost because I know a lot of really, really short, fat people who want to play in the NBA. If you're short and you're fat, you can't be a professional basketball. So we got to be realistic with your dreams and your goals, okay?
Here's the point.
All right? Listen, that's the point. Listen, if you're here, you shouldn't be worried about confidence. If you're in America, what you need to do is stop, and you need to look at what level you're on, find someone else who's on the next level that you want to be at, and go ask them, how did you get where you're at? Ask them questions. Ask to take them to coffee. Ask questions. I'm a talker. I'm a communicator. I can tell you something. My brain, it fires really good when I'm communicating, but my growth doesn't happen until I ask questions.
That's amazing, man.
It's true.
But here's the thing, and I'm gonna keep on digging in.
Let's do it. That's what we're doing.
Every time you're answering the question, I'm gonna
let's go.
a level deeper.
Yeah.
Hey, so think about this. It's not culturally very normal. Let's put it that way. It's not very culturally normal for us to say, "Hey, I'll pay you for coffee, or I invite you for coffee, but I would love to hear what you have to say." There is that little pride. There is that little, why would I ask him? Maybe he doesn't have time for me. Maybe I'm just kind of bothering him. If you could put a 1, 2, 3 a process to step out of your comfort zone and really figure out a way to get somewhere.
Yeah.
How would you do it? How Morris Morrison
I got it right now.
do
Step 1, show up. I don't care where it is. Step 1, showing up is 90%. That's why I complimented the people who are listening to this who may have left their home country for a new country. You've done 90% of the work. Step 1, show up. Step 2 is ask questions. That's where humility comes in. The only people who don't ask questions are people who are full of pride. And if you're full of pride, then
you can't learn.
Then you're going to be frozen. Your gift is always going to be covered up. You'll never know what your gift is because, see, God is a God of stewardship. God has work that needs to be done in this world. And if he knows that you're full of pride, God can still bless you, but God needs work to be done. He needs some people who are willing to do his work. And when you are prideful, I think God takes you and he just sits you over on the side and he says, "Hey, I love you. And when you are ready, I'll put you back in the game."
That's right.
Okay, watch this. Step 1, show up. Step 2, be humble and ask questions. But step 3, find someone you can serve with your gift.
Elaborate a little bit.
Because a lot of people want to be rich. They want to make money. A lot of people want to know their purpose. They want to be entrepreneurs. That all sounds great. But I've been rich. I've been poor. And I can tell you something. None of it matters unless you're serving. None of it matters unless you're being obedient and you're walking with Christ and you're loving your family, your wife, your kids, and you're serving your community around you. Whenever I feel like I'm not doing very well, that's probably because I had 7 days, maybe 10 days in a row where I was busy with work and I didn't stop to go bless someone. Go do something for someone who can't do anything for me and not ask for anything in return. I have never in my life watched anyone who did those 3 steps. Show up, ask questions, and serve others. I have never met a person who's done that and not gotten or received the fullness of life. I've never met anyone. And if you find someone, please introduce them to me.
Wow.
That's true.
Man, Morris Morrison just said, all I got to do is show up and then ask questions. But really, I said, show up. I said, then have humility and ask questions, right? Because humility is what, I got a guy that I'm coaching. He's over in Europe right now. And he said something to me a couple months ago. We both cried on the phone when he said it. This guy is talented, tall, handsome. This guy, when he walks in the room, guys stop and stare. I mean, he and I told him one day, I said, brother, we've been working for years, coaching, trying to figure out what your talent is. I said, let's just forget about that. God created you to be someone that people enjoy looking at. Okay, so let's just match that with some good character and we could build a man out of that, right?
Come on.
He said something to me a couple months ago. He said to me, Morris, he said, I made two of the biggest mistakes my entire life. He said, when I was young, I pretended like I knew the answers to everything. He said, that's step one. He said, I always acted like I knew everything. Underneath of it, he knew nothing. He said, but worse than number one, see, in the first one, he acted like he had the answer. But he said, step two, what's worse than that is I never asked questions for people so I can develop better answers. And when he said it, he cried on the phone to me. He's a grown man. I cried. And then we talked about the power. And so I came up with a red light, green light with him. I said, here's what we're going to do now for the rest of your life, Nick. I said, whenever you have a decision to make, because he doesn't make the best decisions at times, and he'll tell you that. He's been trying to work to grow his character so he can be more decisive. Here's a word, decisiveness. That's a leadership trait. One of the top 9 traits that we look for senior leaders who become senior pastors, senior business leaders, one of the most dominant traits is decisiveness. Do you know how to make decisions for your family, for your team, for your community? Those are bold leadership traits that we need. And how many of y'all would think that right now in our world, we need more leaders?
Oh, yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so as I was coaching Nick, I told him, I said, Nick, I want you to learn how to be more decisive and make better decisions. I said, but I need to protect you from yourself. He said, how can we do that? I said, whenever you have big decisions to make, call me and say, Morris, here's what I'm thinking about doing. Should I do this, yes or no? If it's a yes, I'm going to say green light. And if it's a no, I'm going to say red light. And I don't want you to question me because I'm a man of God. I'm a brother. I'm an elder. I'm a pastor. I'm a coach in his life. I said, in order to protect you from yourself, Nick, you've gone your whole entire life not asking questions, and that stopped your character growth. Now he's turning over a new leaf. He's trying to learn how to ask more questions. I said, so call me, ask me questions. And if I say green light, move forward. And if I say red light, do not question me because nobody's praying for you more than me. That's called wisdom. That is called emotional intelligence. We're talking a little bit about emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Self-awareness is the cornerstone that leads to emotional intelligence. For some of you listening right now, we're saying a lot of big words. Self-awareness is really simple. Do you know who you are? Mm-hmm. Do you know the things that make you smile, the things that bring you joy? Do you know the gifts and the talents that you have? Also, wait a minute, here's the worst part. Do you know the bad parts of your character that make people not want to have a relationship with you? Do you know the bad parts of your character that makes your team not want to follow you?
It's about to see the whole picture about
the
yourself.
whole picture. Because I have a whole picture, and a lot of it's good and a lot of it's bad. And that's why Jesus died on the cross for me, so that the second part that's all bad can be restored over time with good character, but not Morris Morrison's character, Christ-like character, right? So I'm coming back to something. You were asking me a moment ago, why is it so hard? If the 3 steps are so easy, show up, ask questions, and then contribute or serve other people. If it's so simple, why is it so hard? Well, it's because of our selfishness, or it's because of our lack of discipline. We were talking about discipline earlier. Discipline is really, really, really simple. When are you going to tell yourself, no, I don't need that new car. I'm going to save that money and invest in my business. No, I don't need that fancy watch, or I don't need the new iPhone, or no, I don't need to be on social media all the time. See, every time you step up your discipline, you uncover more of your greater purpose. And I think I see a lot of people walking around. There are people listening to this podcast right now who are thinking, man, Morris Morrison sounds like he has it all together. And you know what? They're right. I've got a lot put together. I am a deep thinker. And I have a very sound mind. I have a clear mind. But I have that because I have wisdom surrounding me. I have elders, I have mentors, and I have people who help protect me from myself. And so people listening to this right now, if you get nothing else and you stop listening right now, go find people that you can put in your life around you who have wisdom and who have great ideas and who have great character and great discipline, people who are not addicted to alcohol, people who are not addicted to pornography, people who are not addicted to drugs, normal people who have great joy in their life, who you want to be like 5 years from now. Go ask those people if you can take them to coffee and ask them questions, and then red light, green light. If they tell you red light, shut up.
And can we have a coffee next week?
Yeah, there we go. That's how it is. What you got, Rob? You quiet over there. Give me a question. What you got, man? You know what? Let's let Rob go to his little list that he has in front of him.
Let's go.
We're going to bring out
that.
When you guys talk
Let's do
about language stuff, it's hard for me yet, because inglês is more American than Brazilian now, but I've been living here for 6 years.
Okay.
So it's a little complicated for me sometimes to be myself in English.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain sometimes my thoughts, especially in English. Mm-hmm. And how can we as an immigrant can improve the skill to just communicate well and just create a good connection, especially with American, because we live in here, right? So I feel sometimes we just live in Brazil inside the United States.
Let me tell you something. My daughter, she's 10 years old. Every time I take her, she gets involved with a new program at church or a new thing or a new thing. Whenever we take her, she always looks and she says, well, I don't really know anybody. Uh-huh. And I look at her and I say, but you know what happens next. They're all about to know you. And she'll say, oh, yeah, that's right, Daddy. And she'll smile.
Comfortable, right?
She'll smile. But what she needs from me, she doesn't get this from her mom. She gets this from her dad because I'm masculine, right? When she tells her mom, Mommy, I don't know anybody, Mommy's going to hug her and say, it's going to be okay, blah, blah, blah. She's going to hug her. When she tells me, Daddy, I don't know anyone, I said, that's okay. They're all going to know you. And she says, yeah, that's right. And she goes in, and after the first day, everybody knows her. She's comfortable. It's okay. What I'm telling her is, shut up, suck it up, go walk through the door and trust God. I'm about to say the same thing to Rob. You say it's hard being in America, speaking, you're from Brazil. I'm going to say, so what? Shut up. Keep showing up, right? Nobody cares. The only one who's thinking about how good you speak English, there's only one person who's wondering how good you speak English, and that's you. Myself. I'm not worried about it. G-Money's not worried about it, okay? The devil will always convince you that you're not at the level that God already told you you're at. Don't pay attention to that, man, because nobody cares about it. So the next time you talk to someone in English, if you make eye contact with them and you square your shoulders up and you smile while you're talking to them, 95% of what you're communicating is going to be coming from your body language. 5% of it is going to be coming from your broken English. And your English is broken right now. But if you shut up and you show up and you say, so what, and you keep speaking, then a year from now, you're going to be a 97% English speaker. And then 2 years from now, you're going to be at 99%. And you're going to say, how'd you get so good at English? And you can say, man, Morris Morrison told me to shut up. So what? And he told me to just do it anyway.
I love it.
Because you're the only one worried about it. So for those of y'all who are thinking out here, and listen, I am not.
It's great advice.
Listen, but I'm not trying to I'm not trying to devalidate the fact that there are people out here. English is a second language and it's hard. That's what we have apps like Duolingo for. All right, Rosetta Stone. We've got Google Translate. Like, there's no reason for someone. By the way, I'm going to be really direct with some of y'all listening to me. You're using all that money to buy Air Jordan tennis shoes and brand new iPhones and everything else. Why don't you pay $100 and go take an English course? How about that? You on your phone all day. Right? Yeah. You on your phone all day on TikTok and Instagram. Why don't you be on your phone all day learning English phrases so that a week from now you feel more confident about your English? 2 weeks from now you'll feel more confident. And a month from now, if you're picking up your phone for 5 minutes a day to use it instead of shopping and being on social media, pick up your phone every day, learn some Bible verses, read some things in English, and then a year from now you'll be like, you know what? I'm not worried about my English anymore. Hey, start where you're at. Right?
Yeah, man.
You all are on episode 5 of your podcast. And you got Morris Morrison in the studio with y'all. I'm excited.
Man, I love it.
I'm excited.
I love it.
You know why I'm excited? Because I don't believe in your podcast. I believe in you. Eventually the podcast is going to grow. But what I'm trying to tell you is, just like you all are moving forward, building your podcast one step at a time, you, Rob, you're going to build your English skill one step at a time.
Come on.
Okay?
Okay.
Don't try to do it overnight, man. The devil wants you to think you should be perfect. The devil wants you to think you should be at a certain mastery level a year from now. That's not true. Take your time, man. Take your time.
I appreciate that.
Take your time.
And one thing that's really important too, don't compare, right?
Yeah.
Don't compare yourself to anyone.
Yeah.
You know, you are you, you have your journey, you have your track to race, your speed to go. So, man, I'm so glad. I'm so excited. I don't know about you guys, but I'm so excited to have Morris here with us. It's been such a journey. Well, there are so many questions, and every time we talk about something, it comes in deeper, and it goes into really places that we didn't even expect to go.
Rob, I think we should stop this first part and to let some people go take it. Somebody they gotta go pee, they gotta go to the bathroom.
Probably.
Maybe they left work and they're late for a meeting because they don't want to stop. Maybe let's do a couple quick wrap-up questions so we can let the people get back to their meeting at work. Or, husband, he's supposed to be making dinner right now for his family, but he's in the driveway listening to this. He's like, I can't stop listening, man. Rob's got a sexy voice. I love Rob's voice. It's so sexy. He want to keep listening to it, right? What do you think is a good way to close this first? And by the way, we're about to film part 2, so tune in. But if we look at some of the things we've done in part 1 already, they've heard a little bit about my story. They know I'm from New York. I lost parents. They know I lost the second set of parents. And they know that I now have a global family. I'm a global speaker. I travel the world. But most importantly, I tell people, when you move to a new community, here's the 2 tips. You move someplace new. Join a church and join a gym. You'll get your spiritual food and you'll get your physical development. And before you know it, you'll build community within a matter of months. And I do that around the world everywhere I go. And so what I know is going to happen is you all are going to grow the following of this podcast. And, a year from now, someone's going to come back and listen to this episode and they'll be like, whoa, we need Morris Morrison in Brazil. And we're all going to be flying to Brazil, man. And we're going to sell out an entire arena.
Come on.
And we're going to make sure it's about Jesus. It's about God. But I really think that what you're doing for the Latin community is going to be something that is bigger than you even believe. So I'm telling you two right now, get rid of your old wineskins. You better start thinking bigger, because God is going to do something with this that you all don't even see yet. And I really feel that.
Ooh, so good. So good. So if you have followed us so far, if you're tuned in, we're going to take a break. We just finished. We're just wrapping up episode 1. We're going to turn this into 2 episodes because we just have so much content. We haven't even gone through the questions that we want to ask Morris about being a public speaker and just being able to communicate so well. So we're going to take a break. We'll come back.
See you in part 2.
See you later.
Get ready.